I'm Paige. My family's been going to Grace Chapel for about 13 years. We actually started going to the Wilmington campus right when it first opened. Me and my mom were driving on 93 and we saw the big sign like, church coming soon. And we were actually looking for a new church at the time. So my mom joked that it was a literal sign from God. I grew up with both my parents, my mom and my dad, and my 2 younger sisters and an older brother. I have this like one really vivid memory from like my childhood, and one of our close family friends was over and we were making peanut butter cookies in the kitchen. And I really wanted to like go and like have my mom try the cookies. But I couldn't because my mom wasn't feeling well and she was like in her room sick. So my mom was first diagnosed with cancer when I was 4, or maybe 3.5. When she was diagnosed the 4th time, I think we all were, hopeful because we had favorable outcomes the other times, but it quickly, it was very apparent very quickly that this was different. I was a senior in high school when they kind of said that my mom would have about 3 months left to live. I think I definitely was scared, obviously, like of the unknown of what would happen after, like what would our family dynamic be like? What would that mean for like a lot of things? Would I be able to continue on at school? Would I not be able to? Like, what would life look like after that? But it was also just always in the back of your mind, always wondering anytime the phone rang and it wasn't my mom's name coming up on the phone, it was someone else in my family, it always was like, here's the call, this is the time. And it just wasn't. So it was just always these like spikes of anxiety and then kind of like intense relief of like, okay, it's not today, and it's not, this week. She didn't end up passing away until about halfway through my sophomore year of college, which was a blessing in that we didn't know, but it was a long time to like live thinking, anytime I saw her, anytime we spoke on the phone, like this could be the last time. My mom was like the most faithful person I've ever known. She was so committed to raising up her kids, like knowing Jesus, loving Jesus, going to church, having that be a big part of our lives. And that continued for her whole life. Like whenever she would be in the hospital, she'd always be telling like nurses and doctors, like, do you know Jesus? Can I tell you about Jesus? My mom passed away on New Year's Day, 2016. And so we were actually all home for Christmas break, and my brother had been with her that night. And so he was kind of the person with her when she passed. But I have this like very vivid moment after my mom had passed, and it had been it was like the first day that there was nobody staying in our house that night, and it was like finally kind of quiet. And I was like sitting on my bed and I was like contemplating like, okay, do I go back to school in a few weeks? Do I not go back to school in a few weeks? And I really had almost like this, I don't want to call it a crisis of faith, but I had this moment where it was like, I actually have a choice of if I want to continue my life like believing in God and pursuing God, or if I want to like stop and like not believe it and like walk away from my faith. And so I started going like young adult group at Grace Chapel, and it took almost 2 years of kind of faithfully attending that group and some other life circumstances for me to really realize that I was mad at God. And it was in that group that I was able to kind of like verbalize that to those girls and like start processing through kind of like what that meant. Even with my mom's death, like I have hope that, I have hope not only that I'll get to see her one day, but I know that she's not in pain and she's not suffering and she's not, bound to a chair in her bedroom. I think there's so much more hope when you know that somebody is now with Jesus and they're healed completely. I'm way less scared of my own death because I know that there's like loved ones and people like ahead of me in heaven, and people that I want to see again and want to be with. And so I think just like there's a different kind of hope of knowing that like I will get to see my mom. Whatever you do in heaven, she is experiencing that and thriving in whatever that means in heaven.